First of all, paint a picture of what has happened at University of Wollongong during the pandemic.
Well, our student numbers have come down. The international student numbers have come down, and we've seen a reduction in revenue for the onshore internationals from about 170 million. Last year it was about 135, and this year it'll be about 85 million. And so Minister Tudge is right. The overall numbers are down about 5% across the sector. But when you tease the data apart, it's a mixture of continuing students who've stayed with us and the commencing students, the new students. That pipeline is broken. And so overall, we can see for last year across the sector, a 25% reduction in commencing students. And that's the real worry, because, of course, that was the 2020 data. Now we'll see 2021, where there'll be fewer commencers again. And over time, unless we can refill the pipeline, that system will degrade quite quickly.
So it's not so much about those existing students, Paul, but about the ongoing pipeline and that certainty going forward.
Yeah, for sure, because, you know, that there'll be students who'll be thinking, is it worth starting a degree and taking the risk, or should we defer and do things at a later date? And so we can see in the system already some students are there online, as Minister Tudge said. Other students have registered but not started. And there's a group of students which seem to be holding out and not coming into the system yet. And so overall the effect is it's about 25% each year. And that was last year, 25% again this year. And if we're not able to reopen, then I think the whole pipeline is broken by the time we get to 2022.
Yeah, so you're desperate to reopen, of course. Alan Tudge just said then that he hasn't got one proposal from one university about how to bring international students back. Is that true? Have you put a proposal forward?
No, I think in fairness, it's for the state governments to agree, because this is about health and safety. It's about the availability of the beds in the CBD in the case of New South Wales. And it's about having a sort of a detailed plan about how we'd fly students in and how we'd put that system together. So for most of last year, the universities had very detailed discussions with colleagues from New South Wales Treasury and New South Wales Education. We've got plans ready to go. They'll take about 8 to 12 weeks to get going, because obviously there's all of the health issues and the charter flight issues and things like that. So we need a lead time. And we're now anticipating that as we get to vaccinations in the fourth quarter of this year, that the quarantine process will start to evolve, and it may well then be possible to return Australians into quarantine and to open up additional facilities to allow returning students. Okay. And I think Minister Perrottet made that point yesterday as well.
Yeah, he's determined, isn't he, Vice-Chancellor, to get this market, revived, absolutely, because what I think many people forget is that the international student market is more important, or is a bigger earner for the state government than tourism in New South Wales. So it is a huge amount of revenue that the state government is missing out on. So with your discussions with him, what is the biggest hurdle?
Well, I think the biggest hurdle is can we get the health and safety protocols right for students coming in, and how do we hub them in to bring them into New South Wales if we're to use the beds in the CBD? And then, as Alan Tudge just said, we need to make sure that there are additional beds available. And as soon as you head into that question, you're left with, where does the security come from? Where does the health service adapt to deal with the extra volume? And these additional layers of complexity over and above it's just a bed in a hotel actually start to stretch not the universities, not just the universities, not just the hotel system, but then health provision and security and policing provision. And that's a very complex system. And that's why we've spent so much time as a group of Vice-Chancellors and with the public officials in New South Wales designing a system which is ready to roll, and this is ready to roll now.
Okay, finally, we heard in a speech a couple of weeks ago from Alan Tudge that he was really pushing universities to commercialise their research as a mainstream of revenue rather than rely on international students. Why haven't you done that?
Well, at University of Wollongong, we do commercialisation of our research, as does every university in the country. I think what Minister Tudge and the Prime Minister have identified actually is the opportunity to use the link between universities and businesses to create new industries and new jobs for the future, to deal with the sovereign security issues about how do we get pipelines of ideas and to build new opportunities to use our intellectual property in new ways. And Alan Tudge has got a committee running. I'm a member of that committee. We're in consultation now, and I'm hoping by the end of this calendar year that we come up with a framework that says, here's a way of turbocharging the economy and creating new opportunities. And so it's not about university revenue and filling a gap. It's about actually expanding the economy in new ways and doing things that we've yet to dream of. There are a whole pile of really big missions that the Australian economy has leadership in, and that we could actually do truly extraordinary things in the next decade if we get this right.
Well, Paul Wellings, I hope those talks go well for the sake of the future of the university sector and international students. Do keep us posted, and we thank you for your patience this morning, Paul Wellings.
Okay, Laura, great to talk. Take care.